All right, everybody. Episode 9 of Bri Hunter is Fucked. We have Al calling us in from his respective quarantine hole. How are we doing lately, Al?
I'm doing well. Episode 9. I'm excited.
I know. I can't believe we're on 9 already. Now, if you're like Al, you may not know this situation, right? Al, you don't know. Do you even know who Mitch McConnell is?
I know the name. I don't know shit. I'm assuming it's politics, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I know nothing about politics. So, I've heard the name a billion times. And
Mitch McConnell literally looks like a sea turtle with brain damage. And no offense to anybody with brain damage or to the sea turtles, but it is the way that it is. So first of all, he just walks around looking stupid. But to top it all off, he basically came out this last week and said that he thinks we should allow, New York, New Jersey, and California to go bankrupt, and that they shouldn't be able to take any money from the federal government to recover. Now, the thing that makes no sense is that Mitch McConnell's state takes 40% of the federal budget. So basically, they are taking 40% of the federal tax money for aid for their state. Whereas New York, New Jersey, California, and Connecticut actually they're the top 4 states who give the most to the federal government. So we're giving a lot, out, but we're not getting a lot back. Whereas Kentucky's giving very little, but they're siphoning off for themselves, which is fine because basically daddy's got to go make the money, AKA New York, New Jersey, and California. But basically, Mitch, what he didn't realize is that if you go bankrupt, then who's going to pay his bills? It's basically I'll put it to you this way. It's like rooting for your ex-husband to lose his job when you're living off of his alimony and child support payments. Mitch McConnell is basically one of those chicks on Basketball Wives. He's just, sitting back collecting our hard-earned cash. You weren't with us shooting in the gym, Mitch, okay? We were out there going hard, giving our money to you, and all you had to do was shut up. And when we asked you every once in a while to put out, the only response that should have come back from you was when and for how long. But instead, he chose to be greedy and say that we should go bankrupt and therefore bankrupt his own state. So that's my thoughts on that. But
I'm looking up at a picture at Mitch McConnell. And I definitely recognize this guy, and he does look like a sea turtle. That's pretty spot on.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I'm not the only one who came up with that, but there is a growing. And you know what? I also would be in favor of taking some of those federal tax dollars and investigating whether or not, in fact, he was fathered by a sea turtle. I feel like that would actually be a decent use of the tax money.
And now I clicked on Mitch McConnell turtle, and there is plenty of comparisons to Mitch McConnell and turtles.
I know. But anyway, listen, here's the thing. This isn't even a Democrat versus Republican thing. This is just a taxpayer thing. Even if you're a Republican in California, New York, or New Jersey, and you're paying taxes, this guy is basically saying, yeah, I've taken your money for all these years from my state, but now that you need some help, go screw. And it's it's one thing if a hot chick says that, but it's a total other thing when the fucking, sea turtle with Bell's palsy says it. So I think Mitch needs to take a seat. And of course, my favorite part about all of this was Big Daddy Cuomo with his big dick energy. His literal response was I dare you. I dare you to let us go bankrupt and see what happens.
People are loving Cuomo, huh? That's hear that name buzzing around a lot.
He's so hot. I mean, I think it's not just I think he's a good looking guy, but I think on top of that, it's just he has that swagger. He's just hot. I don't know. I think they're just dudes who have it. And to me, he has that it factor. I actually used to think I was into Chris, who's the one who's the anchor on CNN. But I have now since changed my response.
Oh, we got to send them the old DM, see what's going on.
Oh my God. Could you imagine? Well, I'm pretty sure he's married, but I guess if I wanted to go the old political homewrecker route.
You dated some sort of political person, right?
I dated the mayor's son back from my hometown. And he was really nice. I don't have anything bad to say about Joe. I just was not what you would think of as like being an ally to a political family. Like if you look at like, you know, the chicks that the Trump brothers married, or basically like anybody who's married into like a political family, they're like nice blue-blooded people. They wear their collars like up to their neck bone.
I think that's changing. I think you would look great in like a Jackie Kennedy getup. I think it'd work.
Well, a Jackie Kennedy getup, if we took like 16 inches off the bottom and like 12 inches off the top, then yes, I probably would look good. I mean, the only thing I would wear that would look remotely Jackie Kennedy would be like a pillbox hat, like with a bikini. Like I don't think I'd fit in very well. But who knows? You know, I could always reinvent myself. I mean, look at Arnold, who's the other guy that I would totally be willing to marry.
Who is the most attractive political person there is to you?
Well, it's hard not to, it's like off the top of my head, it's tough to think about. I mean, I obviously like Cuomo's on my mind right now, but even like, oh God, I'm going to forget his name. Like Mitt Romney, like I don't really agree with him very much, but I think he's hot. I've said that before.
What about John F. Kennedy? Do you find him attractive?
You mean like before he was 6 feet under, or yes,
before he's dead, yes, before he's zombie Kennedy.
Yeah, but you know what? He's another one where I think like I don't know that he was necessarily really good looking. I think like people were just into the idea that he had a lot of power. Because like yes, he was good looking and he was young and charismatic, but like if you ran into him in a bar, I don't think you'd be like he's no Don Draper, you know.
What about Barack Obama? Are you a Obama fan?
Yeah. Well, he doesn't really like turn me on. Like he seems like too much of like a goody like for me.
Definitely. Yeah, he's the guy that finds the clip of $100 and returns it.
Yeah. Which is sweet, and like you want that guy on your team, but like do you want him like railing you? Like no, obviously not. That's just not. But what about you? Like you're putting me in the hot seat. Like what are some like do you think Sarah Palin's hot?
No, not particularly. I've never been into those porn remakes either. Or when Tina Fey was dressed as her. I mean, attractive people, no doubt, but I've never been into it.
Right.
I can't really think of a politician I've really been into. I like Michelle Obama. I think she's more attractive than most politicians, but I can't really think of one that I really am like, wow, she's getting me.
You like want to get it in. I feel like you would do it with what's her face from Germany, Angela Merkel. I feel like she's your type.
Yeah, no, maybe what's her name? Cortez, Alex Cortez. What's her name?
Oh, AOC.
Yeah,
but see, here's the thing, and again, like this is like completely politics aside. Like this is just from like a betting perspective.
Yeah.
Like she strikes me as the kind of person who would want to boss you around in the bedroom. And as we've established before on this podcast, you are a pacifist and you don't want somebody like chains, whips, but like she looks like she wants
no chains or whips. But I don't think AOC is about that. You know?
Don't?
No, I think it's more of just like words, and I'm fine with words. Put me down with words.
So you want to be okay? I get it. So you like you're okay with being verbally abused, but like physically,
yes.
like you're just not into that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I can dig it. All right. Enough politics talk. Let's get to the fun. Let's get to what people came for, which is talking about my vagina this episode. Again, like I almost got written out of the will for the last episode, so I'm sure like this episode will be like yet one more nail in the out of the will coffin.
Your mom's not the biggest fan of what you're talking about, huh?
No, she's not. She always says to me, she's like, I think you're very funny. I just wish that maybe you could talk about things that are a little less disgusting. Which I guess like if I were a mom, like I'd think that too. Like, but like I always think back to like how Joe Simpson would like encourage Jessica Simpson to like have her ass out and like do weird shit. And I'm like, okay, like I wouldn't want a parent like that who was like, wants me to be hypersexualized. So I also like I think it's good that they're obviously like not that into like it would be weird if they were like, oh my God, yeah, like talk about getting laid, like that would be weird to me.
like a pageant mom is very strange.
Yeah, like a what do you call her? Like a Kris Jenner. Like that's not what I'm looking for. But yeah, so she's trying, but yeah, she's not. I wouldn't say she's our biggest fan. She's like right in the middle. However,
what's great about my mom is she doesn't understand what I'm saying in English, so it kind of works.
What?
because she listens to my podcast, my mom, but her English isn't great, so she doesn't really understand what I'm saying. She just understands the cursing, and she doesn't want me to curse so much, which I understand.
That's like, so, yeah, like all moms are like, but does your mom curse?
No, never.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, that's like understandable, but like the thing that my mom and I always argue about is that like my mom hates when I curse, but growing up, my mother always cursed. Like, so I'm like, it's not like it came out of nowhere. Like, you know, we curse because you curse like a sailor. And I think it's great. To me, it's like a form of venting. I read like a statistic somewhere that like people who like don't curse are like, you know, more tightly wound and like more likely to like, you know, murder someone and like stuff them in their floorboards, which kind of makes sense because again, like to me, cursing is like a venting of aggression. So if you're keeping all that shit bottled in, like eventually it's going to blow. So
That's an interesting way to think about it. I never thought about that.
So yeah, so I'm pro fucking cursing on this podcast. No, but so I, as you know, my birthday was last week, so I got my annual gyno appointment reminder in the mail.
Nice.
It's time to get the girl checked out. Which I don't know. I guess like I mainly call it my vagina. Like vagina nicknames are like we could literally do an entire 20 minutes on that, but we won't. But I was telling you the other day that my great grandmother used to call it her lucky, and I think
which
that's
is so
the
weird. That's so weird to me.
Thing in the world. And I'm gonna try to start referring to mine as my lucky. But I don't know. Would you find that weird? Like I don't think I would do it in the bedroom, but like what if I just was like talking about it and I'm like, oh yeah, like my lucky feels weird today. Like how would you feel about that?
I don't want any connection between your great grandmother and your vagina. I just feel like that's two separate things. Let's keep them separate.
What? Listen, Lena was a looker. I mean, like, you know, like she got old eventually, but like back in her day, I mean, you know, everybody got it on. She had like 4 kids, so obviously she was no prude.
I don't like any nickname for a vagina. Just keep it a pussy.
Just keep it simple. Keep it simple. I like that.
Keep it a pussy, yeah.
When I was back in Jersey, I had like the best gyno, like he was like a god of the gynecological arts. Dr. Mike Milano, shout out to Dr. Milano from Verona, New Jersey. He just was like, I don't know, like I think it was because he was like funny and he was really chill that I loved him so much. But I remember one time, like I went to him and I was like, I think I need to switch my birth control because like my libido is so low. Like I am like for somebody who loves sex, and this was like back when I was having sex regularly, I was like, for someone who loves sex, like I just have no interest, you know, the past month and a half, I don't know what's wrong with me. And when I go to have sex, like I felt like dry. And so he like examines me and he looks me dead in the eye and he goes, honestly, like I think you just need to start having sex with a different guy. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, like your vagina's not the problem. He's like, it's not your birth control either. He's like, I think it's just the dude. And I was like, okay, like this doctor's for me. Like ballsy to the point, basically told me that the guy I was sleeping with was like, you know, a loser in bed, which is, again, ballsy. But like that's the kind of man / doctor I need in my life. Like someone who's just going to like give it to me straight, no holds barred, and believes that I genuinely, you know, deserve good sex. Who wouldn't want that?
He sounds like a real friend.
Yes, he was. He was not my original person, but I went to him on an emergency basis and he treated me like so well that I'm like, okay, I'm never going to anybody else again. And
now you're going to someone else. So
well,
you kind of dropped him
when
like
I
a sack
moved
of
out
potatoes.
to LA, I had to replace him, which was like next to impossible. Trying to replace my nail tech and my gynecologist were probably the 2 hardest parts about moving across country. No bullshit. Like people are like, oh, like it must be hard without the family or you're away or the money. And I'm like, nope. It literally was like, you know, like it's tough being away from family and it's tough replacing a nail tech and my gyno. Like those are the 3 things that I miss the most, if we're being honest.
Well, you could still give him the old video chat, you know, try to conduct things yourself.
Oh my God. Like, could you imagine me with like my legs up in the, like in this setting too? Like I just could like pop my legs up in the air and have him like take a look down there.
Yeah.
Please.
I'm sure he's up for it.
My luck, like it would somehow like turn into like an Instagram live accidentally, and it would be like it would be like American Pie, like it would be broadcast to like everybody I knew. But one time, I don't know if this was the first time I went to him. It doesn't really matter. But I've only had I'm lucky in this. My lucky is lucky because I've only had a yeast infection once in my life. I had my first one when I was 23. I didn't even know what it was. So I did what any responsible adult would do, and I just called a friend. And my friend Beba, and I told her what was going on. She's like, oh, no big deal. Like, you have a yeast infection. Like, go to the store, get Monistat, and you're fine. And for dudes who don't know what that is, it's basically like these little like cream pellets that you like shoot up your vagina like a pinball machine, and it's supposed to clear up the infection. And so I'm like, okay, whatever. So I take the shit, I go home. I'm still living with my parents. So I go up to my room. It's like late at night. I put it up there expecting immediate relief. And all of a sudden my vagina starts like burning. And I'm texting my friend. I'm like, is it supposed to burn? She's like, no, it's just supposed to actually have the opposite effect. It's supposed to make it feel better. And I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm like, holy shit. Like, it was burning so bad. I ran down the stairs screaming. Like, my whole family's like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I'm like, nothing. And then I jump in the shower. It had like a detachable shower head. And I'm like rinsing this stuff off my vagina, like screaming and crying. And my mom's like, what's going on? And I'm like, I put this shit in there and it literally feels like acid is burning off my vagina. And then, of course, like my dad's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, nothing. My mom and I are screaming at him. And my mom's like, I've never heard of that before. So sure enough, next day I go to Dr. Milano and I'm like, fix this situation. Like, what is going on down there? And he's like, yeah, he's like, it's really, really rare. He's like, but some women like have an adverse reaction to Monistat and it literally burns them. And
that sounds horrible.
Of course it's the worst. And the best part is like, I was like, well, how common is it? And he's like, literally, like, I've only had one other patient who this has ever happened to. He's like, you'd be number 2. This man is 60-something years old. In all of his years, I am the only other person who has been basically got a chemical peel to their vagina because of Monistat. So that was fun.
You know, I'm surprised to learn that yeast infections are pretty common, I guess, right?
I think, yeah, no, they are. I mean, and like people, of course, like they're always like, they think it's because like you were doing something like dirty or you're sleeping with a gross guy. But like, honestly,
that's what I thought.
No, it's basically when like, God, this is not, now this is turning into like Dr. Ruth. Like, it's basically when the pH of like your vagina gets thrown off, which again can be from like dirty dick, but it could also be from like eating too much sugar or stress, or it was your time of the month. So like it can happen for all different reasons. And some people are just like, it's like UTIs. Like, it's just some people are more prone to it than other people. So luckily I only had it once, but again, like the one time I had it, it was like a war story. Like I was like, yeah, like my vagina was like beat fucking red for days. It was like hurt to sit on the subway. So not a good situation. But that was not half as bad as the time when I had to have my cervix biopsied. So for all the dudes who are listening, like I know you don't really understand what that means, but it's basically as if somebody went and took a chunk of your taint and tested it for cancer. And they have to cut it off of you without any numbing anything. Like you're not put under, like you're totally awake. There's no numbing agent. They just go up there, rip a fucking piece off, and then send it into a lab. I have a hard enough time going for a regular appointment. So when I tell you I was sobbing, crying, and when I like finally, when it was all said and done, I got up and my fake tanner I sweated off all over the paper on the table. Like, they put that shit on the doctor's table. I got up and he was like, what? And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, I sweat off all of my self tanner. I was so upset that the self tanner, like, how people are like, oh, like the soul left my body. Well, my soul left my body and it took the self tanner with it.
Oh my God.
Mortifying. But yeah, so I haven't always had the best of luck. And then when I came out to LA and my health really took a fucking turn for the worse, I should say. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I have PCOS. So it's like polycystic ovary syndrome. I basically have like a bunch of cysts on my ovaries. Good.
Oh no.
Yeah. I'm telling you, like the queen of the weirdest fucking health issues. So whatever. Yeah. So I have PCOS, and it all started like when I was a kid. You and I have talked about this before. Like I never had a thin phase. Like, you know how you're like a chubby baby, but then you kind of like thin out, and then like, like you're just have that cute skinny phase, and like you run around in like Abercrombie clothing and like you eat whatever and life is fine. Like never happened for me. Like my mom dressed me in Old Navy, like because that's all that my like burly lumberjack ass could fit into in grade school.
Same. Absolutely the same. Yep.
Like my mom was like, just slap some corduroy and heavy knits on that bitch because she is not fitting into that size 000 Abercrombie shirt. It's not going to work.
Now, were your siblings the same? Do they feel the same thing, or you have skinny siblings?
No, all four of my siblings are like were slender. Like they don't have weight issues. Like it literally was just me.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So again,
I
like,
feel
we'll
the
just
same
add
way.
to it.
My mom and dad.
Childhood. Actually, I'm sorry. To this day, my grandfather, who by the way adores me, but is not exactly the most sensitive human. His nickname for me is Beefy. Beefy.
Oh no.
So can you imagine like being? It's like bad enough like that's what I'm called. But like every once in a while, he like slips up and says it to me in public, and I'm just like, great. Like that's. Can you imagine? I'm like, that's exactly what I want, like a prospective
Well, now
husband.
it's fine
like,
because you're in shape. You're very thin now, so you should laugh about it.
I wouldn't say I'm thin. I feel like I'm slim thick, which I always joke is like it's kind of nice, but you're always like 5 pounds away from just being fat. Like there's like a very fine line of you're like, oh yeah, like you're hot and you're curvy versus like you're just chunky. Like, you know, 3 cheeseburgers
that's right where you wanna
and like,
be,
you know, 1 milkshake and I'm just fat again. Like there's not really a whole lot of margin, you know, for error there. But whatever, you know, you take the hand that you're dealt. But then so basically the PCOS, so I've been dealing with it for a long time. It's like whatever at this point. But when I came out to LA, I was having all these weird health issues. So I had to go to a fertility specialist and they're like, oh, you know, we got to do an intervaginal ultrasound. So like immediately again, like I hate getting like a regular pap smear. So I'm like, what? Like that just sounds terrible. Like I don't even know the specifics, but I can tell you that I don't like the sound of like intervaginal anything unless it's like a guy. So they like show me this gigantic wand and they're like, this is going to go inside of you. And then they probed me. Like literally like how you like envision the aliens coming down and then like bringing you on the ship and then like sticking shit in you to like check you out. Like they fucking probed me.
I mean, that kind of sounds like your fantasy.
Well, it would be if it were aliens and not like, you know, 16 medical students from UCLA. Like it was not really the same. It was not really the same thrill, you know? But yeah, it just was like, I don't know, it's like a very like weird experience and it's super uncomfortable. And they always tell you like, oh, this is not going to hurt. And you know, the minute they say that, it's like total bullshit. It's going to hurt like hell. And I also like, it wasn't just the doctor. It was the doctor. It was 2 machine techs and 2 nurses. And I just was like looking around, like there was like 80 people in the room. And I'm like, should we just go down and see what the valet downstairs is doing? Should we have him join in on this? But yeah, so another fucking terrible story. And also it was basically the most action I had seen in months at that point was being, you know, probed like a Thanksgiving turkey. They were like checking my temperature. I was like, okay, cool.
Well, hey, it's great that you're taking care of these things because I'm sure other women aren't. And, you know, so today your vagina's, you know, clean and lovely because of this.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, my like I always jokingly say to my gyno like, can you Yelp review my vagina? Like leave me a good Yelp review because I feel like I've been taking care of it. It's like I get a good grade from like the Department of Health and Services or whatever the hell it's called, Department of whatever, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, like things are sort of like in tip top shape down there, which is how we like them. But yeah, some chicks, I've noticed a correlation between women who don't feel like it's necessary to go to the dentist are also the same women who feel like it's not necessarily necessary to go to the gyno. And definitely. I don't understand that at all. Like
these are the same women that aren't changing the oil in their car, you know? Yeah.
Or like not changing the bed sheets in between the different dudes that come over.
Oh no, you can't do that.
No, I don't know. Yeah, like ladies, take care of yourself. Like, I don't know. I just feel like to me, like my vagina is like my greatest investment at this point. So if I don't take care of it, it's not going to take care of me. So I got to keep that girl in tip-top shape, but I don't know. I also I was up, I couldn't sleep last night. I didn't tell you this, but I was up until 5 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't sleep and I was thinking about this episode and I was thinking about like God making women and like God and his angels basically like making the vagina. I feel like they got down there and like they really like took, because it's like an intricate thing. So like they got down there and they really took their time. Like I feel like he must have been like, okay, like, fold it up gently like do like a little like a fluff and fold, like a fold and tuck, kind of make it look like a little like a pastry, and just sort of like tuck it up there. And
Well, that's the thing. Vaginas look so different. Everyone's vagina is like a snowflake. They're all different.
yeah, no, he was smart. It's like Snowflake is a good example. Like he was smart enough like to give some variation, but like either way, like the whole system, I mean like it was like Michelangelo, like he took his time with that. And I feel like you can tell that there's like a stark difference between that and men, because men look like they have like a couple pieces of like wet unfinished pizza dough hanging in between their legs. Like I feel like the angels got there and they're like, oh fuck, I don't know what to do with these ones. Like we have to make them different. Like I don't know, we can't fold it in, right? Because the piece has to fit in the other ones. Like they were just like, oh fuck it, we can't cut it off. We just got to leave it hanging.
Definitely, penises are ugly. Vaginas are kind of beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, they
Ask
look
Georgia
again like
O'Keeffe.
they look like somebody like a pastry chef like really took their time with that in heaven, like crafting the vaginas. Whereas like again, like the dicks and like the ball sacks, they were just like, all right, just fucking, it looks good. It's good enough. Just send it through. And then I feel like, I don't know. I also don't think that God like hates gay people. I know that there are some people in the South who would disagree with me, but I'm like, I don't think God would. I don't think He gives a shit. So I feel like, when the angels were like, yeah, but what about like, boys who want to sleep with other boys? And God was like, all right, fuck it. Like give everybody one hole and only half of them get like the inner thigh dumplings. But, everybody gets a hole for everyone.
That's the thing. The penis fits so well into the asshole. So there has to, if there is a God, he thought about that.
Yeah, no. I think you're right. Our God is a thinker. I wasn't planning on talking about that this episode, but whatever, like we're already here. Let's do it. Let's talk about anal. Fuck it. It's a Tuesday. It's 4:00. Let's just go ahead and talk about anal. Are you into anal? Are you into butt play?
No, I've never even tried it.
Really? Okay, so
No,
you're in my
never had
camp.
an interest.
Yeah. I've never, kind of surprising though, because I feel like you're just kind of like a live and let live guy. Like I don't see you as being a dude who would push for it. I just see you as a dude who, like, if you ended up there, you're just like, whatever. Like you only live once. Like let's.
And that's absolutely my thought process on it. It's never gone to that level. Because here's the thing, I'm a big guy, so a lot of women come to me wanting me to kind of take the reins.
Right.
So they've brought it up before, but they kind of let me decide what's going on, and I really wish it wasn't that way. I want them to kind of figure out what's going on, and if butt play was part of it, I'm down to dabble, but I've never, I don't even watch porn that has ass play in it.
Would you let a girl touch your ass though? Because some guys feel like it's like hetero guys feel like it's gay and they don't like it, and then like
if there's any sort of insertion, no way.
No insertion.
Not for me. I'm not gonna, if some other guy's into that, that's absolutely okay. Not for me. I'm, a little play around, a little
grazing around.
A little grazing's no problem, but any sort of insertion, not for me. No, thank you.
Right. You don't want to be penetrated. Okay. That's fair. See, I can't do any of that because of my nails. Like I would literally like end your sphincter in like one fell swoop. So I can't. Even if you wanted, I couldn't help you out.
That would hurt so much.
Yeah. It would be terrible.
I probably shouldn't ask this as a producer, but what about you?
Nope. And I don't know. I just, again, like, no, I know people are really into it. Like, I feel like especially like our generation is like, they're like, leading the charge on like, anything having to do with like, ass, but which is fine. Again, like, this is America, but I've never done it.
To each his own.
Yeah, to each his own. I've never done it. And honestly, for me, I think it's more just because, like, me, like, if I have, like, one eyelash out of place, I want to, like, retape the whole episode. So do I strike you as the kind of woman who wants you, like, up my asshole? Like, no. Like,
oh, no. You would be worrying so much about it.
No. I would be so worried. And, like,
yep.
I think, like, anal bleaching is the dumbest thing ever. But at the same time, like, I would feel like, if I were going to show you my asshole, like I would obviously want it to be in the best shape ever. So I would get it bleached, buffed, waxed, whatever it needed, whatever needed to happen, I would do it. Botox,
Yeah.
I don't care. So, and that's just too much work for me, you know? Like, again, like we were just saying, like the vagina, it's hard enough to take care of one thing. I don't really feel like, you know, maintaining the beauty of my asshole like week in and week out. That's just too much. Like, only sugar babies and the Kardashians have time for that. Nobody else. Who has the time? Who has the time, you know?
Well, everyone now.
I guess so. I think we got time for one more story. It's a good one, so I feel like, I don't know, I
Okay.
kind of want to roll with it. Can we do it?
Okay. Yeah, we'll wrap it up after that, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, perfect. So this actually was like, this is the first story I ever told. Like when I started stand up, it wasn't even like an official start. It's, you know, Donnie from Stand Up New York. I
Yeah.
went to go see Stand Up New York is a comedy club on the Upper West Side in New York City for anybody who's not an NYC native. And Donnie was a friend of a
Honestly,
friend.
one of my favorite clubs. Love Stand Up New York.
You like it there, yeah. No, it's awesome.
One of my favorite clubs. Yeah.
It's a good spot. I've been there many a times, but I basically went to just, you know, chat with him, and he was like, all right, like show me your stuff. And I was like, no, I don't really have any, you know, like I just started, I don't really have any stuff. And he's like, all right, well, just get up on stage and just tell whatever story comes to mind. So I get up on stage and I decide that I'm going to talk about my recent rectal exam, which is like, again, like of all the stories you could tell, you're like, all right, let me go for like literally the most disgusting and embarrassing one I could pull out of the archives. But I don't know. I'm like I'm go big or go home. So so basically what happened was one day I was at work and I went to the bathroom and my asshole is bleeding. Similar to the yeast infection, this has never happened before. So I'm like, what the fuck? So again, I'm like a responsible adult. So what do? I come back to my desk and I just start Googling shit. And every article ends in either AIDS or ass cancer. AIDS or ass cancer. Like there's no, like, oh, maybe it's this. It's just literally like imminent death. Like just go pick out a burial plot. So I'm totally panicked. And it's not the kind of health issue. It's not like, oh, like a toothache or, you know, like whatever, like your stomach hurts. It's like really like embarrassing. Like I wasn't going to go around, you know, SNY and like ask people like, oh, hey, if your asshole ever started hemorrhaging in the middle of the day. Like, just not something you do in this country anyway. So I was like, fuck. So I go home. I'm like, I got to go to the doctor. I didn't even know what doctor to go to. I'm like Googling like asshole doctor. Like, I don't know. Like, I didn't even know who was responsible for that part of the body. So whatever, I end up going to the gastro, and I get there and I'm like all dressed up because I'm going to work, you know, after this. So I'm like, I look cute, despite, you know, again, like my asshole is like bleeding out. And I get into the exam room and in walks the nurse. And it is a hot as fuck male nurse. Like he was so hot that he made you forget about the fact that he was in fact a male nurse. Like that level of hot, like Dr. McSteamy. And I'm like, oh, okay, like maybe this is like the silver lining. So we start talking and he's kind of flirting with me, but then he starts to ask me about my symptoms. And I'm like, and he's literally like, how's your flatulence been lately? How's your bowel? And I'm like, literally like, if you had like a knife in the room, I literally would have chosen death than to sit there and talk to this guy about like every bowel movement I've had for a week. Like, so you can come back from like having like, you know, a tooth problem or like you broke your leg or whatever, but you are not coming back from somebody after you told them like your asshole was bleeding. Like that memory is never going to like leave, you know, their memory bank. So, you know, whatever, he finishes his like prelim exam, he walks out the door taking all of my dignity with him on the way out. And then the doctor comes in and she literally looks like she just graduated high school. Cute little Indian woman, but literally I'm like, okay, am I older than you? Like I was like, what is about to happen? So she comes in, again, I have to go through like my barrage of embarrassing symptoms. And the whole time that I'm talking to her, like in the back of my head, because I have a lot of forethought, I'm like, how are they going to do this exam? Like, how do they get a good look up there? So I'm like, is it going to be like, you know, like, it's going to be like a legs over the head situation? Am I going to have to like get up and bend over? So she literally has me turn on my side and hold my leg up with one hand and outstretch your other arm. So literally I was like a Heisman trophy that fell over onto the floor. Like that's the position you have to get in before like your asshole is excavated. So I'm laying like that, like looking at a piece of art, again, praying for death. And she like pulls out an industrial sized bottle of lube, squirts it out, and I'm like, oh my God, here it comes. She sticks not one, not two, but 3 fingers up there. Like,
oh my God.
I didn't even know I had the capacity for that. And she like has them up there and she's like fishing around like she like lost her keys in there. And what was even worse is that like just like they do at the dentist, she's like trying to make small talk with me. And she's like, "Oh, like any big plans this weekend?" And I'm like, "Okay, this is like small talk at the doctor is like awkward enough in general, but like try doing it when somebody is like 3 knuckles deep in your asshole." Like I just was like, "I don't want to look at you or talk to you right now." So whatever, she like finishes up and she's like, "Okay, like, you know, good news. I think it's just like a bad case of hemorrhoids." So I'm like, great. So now, you know, me and my 85-year-old grandfather like have something in common. So she's like, "You just have a bad case of hemorrhoids." And I'm like, okay, like, well, what do we do with the situation? And she's like, similar to Monistat, she's like, "Oh, I'm going to give you these little like cream pellets and you have to just like shoot them up there at night and it'll like heal the area." So at the time, the guy that I was dating really wanted to try anal. And I was like, well, shit, like maybe after I've like Pantened my asshole for a month, maybe that'll be like the perfect time to try. I'll just be like a well-oiled machine up there. But we ended up breaking up, so he never got to experience like the silky smooth.
Poor guy.
I know. But I healed, and that's like the good news.
Yeah,
and
that's
now
great news.
I went to school for finance. I graduated magna cum laude, and I ended up telling, you know, strangers stories about my bleeding asshole. And that's what I want to do for a living. So my parents are very proud. It's
Yeah,
ending very
I'm sure
well.
your mom's gonna love this episode.
Oh yeah, I can already hear her. She's gonna lose her mind. But whatever, dude. It's like embarrassing shit. It like happens to everybody, and
It happens to
if
everyone.
people can have a laugh at my expense, especially you know, since we've hit the end times on Earth, then like why not? You know?
Yeah, I'm gonna enjoy finding the pictures for this episode. That's gonna be fun.
Oh yeah. Look up like No, that wasn't it. It was I don't know. Wait, proctologist is like, is that the penis doctor or is that the? Well, it's
I don't know. I've never been to a penis doctor. I have no idea.
oh, you've never had a prostate exam?
No, that's usually something you don't do until you're older, unless you have something wrong with you.
Oh, those are going to be the days, man. Then you're going to know what it feels like, you know, to be excavated in the middle.
That's
of
the thing.
day.
Maybe I should get into that type of, you know, sex because it'll get me ready for my rectal exam.
Yes, you should start prepping now. Start doing your stretches. Start looking at Heisman trophies. Get ready for it.
I'll buy a butt plug. It'll be fun.
Oh my God, butt plugs. That's like another weird thing. I once knew a good friend of mine who was like really into anal, like maybe a little bit too much, like to the point where like I think she was like on the verge of like prolapsing, which was someone, someone who doesn't go to the dentist and someone who doesn't go to the gyno, same person who was also prolapsing. And
just that word is disgusting.
I know, it's terrible. I've like watched documentaries about porn stars and I'm like, that looks like the worst thing that could ever happen to you. But so
Yep.
hers was sort of so agape at this point after so many sessions that the butt plug actually got lost inside of her.
No, don't say that.
And I was like, oh, you're telling me. I'm like, oh my God, like I can't even. So I'm like, what did you do? And she's like, yeah, you know, like the guy and I, like we had to fish it out. And I was like, why? Like, and then the best was she like sent me, this was like before she, like it got lost, like up yonder, but she sent me pictures of them. I guess they come in different sizes and they were all bejeweled. And I was like, what's really the point? I'm like, you just get like and she was like, oh, well, we're going to do like a photo shoot, like an artistic. And I was like, oh yes, like a butt plug with a jewel on the end is the epitome of art. Like they'll put it up in the Smithsonian for you.
They're very pretty, those butt plugs. I've seen those.
I can't. I love her, and I don't really like. I'm not like. It sounds like I'm judging. I'm really not judging, but I also just was like, if it gets to the point where, you know, it's like, you know, Stranger Things, where it just disappears deep into the abyss, like Barb, never to be seen again. I think
you know what I'm worried
you
about
gotta slow down.
What I'm worried about is those people that deep throat bananas. I'm worried they're going to choke.
Wait, say that one more time.
Those people that deep throat bananas, I'm worried that those things are going to break and they're going to choke.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Like, I don't know why we have to always push the limits. Like shoving things down our throat. Also fisting. Why?
Yeah, me as a porn viewer has never asked for that. I never needed any of those things.
Neither have I. Who's into that? That just seems like that is so bizarre to me. Like, I've never looked at somebody and been like, oh, I'm so turned on. They could probably fit like an armchair up their vagina. Like, that's not cool. I think
that's a good note to leave on.
Yeah, we've been having some real humdingers to end on. So yeah, I guess the takeaway from this episode is Mitch McConnell looks like a sea turtle with, what do we say, Bell's palsy, and
yes.
He should not be asking for any money. He's a greedy housewife. Mm-hmm. We learned that the vagina needs to be taken care of at all times. We've learned that the asshole is the same way. And also don't fist yourself ever for anyone. If someone loves you, they will never ask you to do that. That's not what the Lord intended.
And given the opportunity, just have a penis, because it's way easier.
Yeah, you're hanging dough flaps. Ugh.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, that was a good episode.
Yep, I think it was good. I'm a little perturbed that we're sitting here talking about this at 4:30 on a Wednesday and I'm drinking. But listen, it's quarantine. There are no rules, baby. Like,
no rules.
We're just flying by the seat of our pants. It literally doesn't matter. But everybody, I don't know. I don't even remember what the sign off was. I guess just that we love you. Stay safe. The twins and I, don't want you to get the Rona. And also, what is it? Fucking like, subscribe. Just like all of our shit. Like whatever you're listening to.
Comments, all that stuff.
Yeah, comment. It can even be hate comments. I don't really care. Comment on our stuff, like our stuff, subscribe. Email us, tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like. But yeah, give us some feedback because we won't know until you tell us. But again, love and light from the twins and I. Everybody stay safe, and until next time.
Whoa!